Oh yeah, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to this edition, the Rocci Russo Experience right here, Israel TV, ops lands and broadcasting around the world. Come on, let's go.
That's how I do. That's an air guitar. Air guitar. Not to be confused with an air flute.
It's kind of like an air harmonica.
It's an air harp.
No, what's the
what is that? What is that?
Funky?
What is that thing?
No, what are those called?
Big harmonica.
Not the big harmonica.
Call it
One time we need live viewers. So if you guys don't know, by the way, this is an episode of Rocci and Russo Experience. It is going to be being played live, but this is recorded the day before. We're trying to get some interviews, trying to make this happen. So this is going to be a full show where we are diving deep into the concept of Israel. And I'm starting this off with something I mentioned last night, that although I am pro-Israel, I am Jewish. I am also Christian. I'm Christian and Jewish by heritage. That some of my beliefs have been challenged in the last 72 hours as I've delved very, very deep into this conflict, which I think is incredibly convoluted and confusing. So we're going to have a pretty full show on this. I've got a guest with us. Eric is going to join us. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself. Before we get started, though, Rocci already mentioned Israel TV and Ops Lens, but we are also beholden. We're not really beholden, but we've got some people that are actually helping us out. Century H2O, the water that I always drink during the show and across the rest of the day, where I'm about at, I don't know, gallon every 24 hours, kicking the tires, lighting the fires. Use code Russo10 at centuryh2o.com, Century, Sentry, H2O.com.
Wow, bro. Bro, you didn't even take a breath.
I didn't.
I don't even think you blinked. Really?
I don't
I'm really thinking about it.
No need to blink. Why would you blink?
Dude, I'm saying. Well done, brother. All right, take us in. We got a conversation to have here. And so people kind of sit down and just prepare yourself. We're going to go multiple different directions because Russo, we were talking last night. And, like I said, it's just kind of like an endless matrix. You jump in and you kind of find yourself never getting out. But we want to have a conversation, right? And this is really important to you, and it's important to me, and it should be important to everybody. So what do we got going on tonight?
3 years of doing shows like this, talking about truth, talking about difficult topics, vaccines, presidential races, all this. I don't think there's been a topic that I've tried to to jump into that is more convoluted and complicated than the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I think it's rough. And I'm sorry tonight if I'm not getting words out perfectly, just so you know, I do have a little bit of a cold, brain's a little foggy on the left. So not a great night to not be 100% sharp as we got a couple shows that we're doing. But I think that having this conversation with as much firsthand information is incredibly important. And we were trying, just to be clear before I introduce Eric and have him introduce himself, I should say, we tried getting people from both sides, and we're going to be shooting a show that will air before this, where I will have kind of the overriding side that this is a globalist, elitist scandal, essentially, and there is a Zionist and Jewish thing to it. We're going to talk about that on Truth Will Set You Free. You've probably already watched that. But in terms of this, I've talked to some of my Muslim friends, Palestinian friends. I've then gone into influencers that have firsthand accounts and videos. The question becomes, where do you believe them? Where do you see it? And ultimately, at the end of the day, my faith that I should just be blindly pro-Israel because of my Christianity and Judaism has been challenged to the point where I want to have a full conversation on it. Eric and I, our guests on the show, had this conversation via text. Like my despair is in the fact that I'm seeing Christians that are literally becoming ultra anti-Semitic, it seems. So then the questions I started to dive into is there a middle ground? So without further ado, Eric, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, all the different things.
Hey, what's up, audience? So good to be here with you guys, Rocci and Anthony. Thanks for having me. My name is Eric Konovalov. I have a company called The Goal Guide. That's me. Take you by your hand, guide you to your goals. What I do is coach, speak, train, mainly in the topics of mindset, sales, leadership. Why I do it is because my passion is to help people live free, whether it's freedom from the shackles of their minds or live free from, oppressive governments. So my background is I'm a Jewish refugee out of the former USSR. Been in the States since 1990. We left former USSR in 89. The immigration process was Austria, then Italy, and then they decided kind of if you were going to go to the US or Israel. Most of my cousins, aunts, uncles are in Israel. My immediate family ended up in the States. So I'm glad to have this conversation. It's been a rough, kind of very emotionally charged week for me. So thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks, Eric. And you obviously also served in the military, so thank you for our service. And I think that when I was trying to present the idea to have somebody else on from the Muslim side, Arabic, Palestinian side, saying you were very level-headed. And I think that's why it's important to have this conversation with you. And some people did actually want to come on. Some are actually, they work for organizations in DC, and they're actually not allowed to speak to any media right now. So there is a blackout on their end. So unfortunately, at the moment, these people are not, they're not.
What a shame, dude. What a freaking shame.
It's different. So I have to find people that unfortunately are not as educated, that are maybe I'm not considered educated in this. So hopefully we'll get somebody on next week that'll be able to have the conversation, but in short term, it was very different. And I'm now that I'm getting, I made a post saying that maybe I was wrong. I'm getting a lot of messages as we speak about this. And it's a lot of people judging my stance, and my stance is still pro-Israel, but I do think there's more questions to it. So first off, what is and of course, obviously Rocky, jump in with questions, but what is what your family, who is boots on the ground essentially in Israel, what have they told you is happening right now?
So I have family in the north who are right on the border with Lebanon, and they were evacuated by the Israeli army. They're out staying with their friends because Hezbollah started lobbing rockets from the north. And then I have family in Tel Aviv. When I saw it the other week, like, hey, there are rockets going from Gaza to Tel Aviv, I reached out to my cousin. I was like, hey, we got news that rockets are flying Tel Aviv. And his response was, there are always rockets flying into Tel Aviv. We're good. So they're good in Tel Aviv. My good friend, their family lives in Ashkelon, which was one of the cities that was attacked. It's really close to the Gaza Strip on the west side of Israel. And thank God they weren't hurt. They weren't there. But her brother is recalled now. He serves in the IDF, and he's over on the West Bank by Jerusalem, doing their thing.
What is their opinion on Palestinians?
For the people, so it's interesting. It's mixed. Folks in Tel Aviv are, we want to live in peace. Palestinians are fine. There are a lot of Palestinians who live in Israel just fine. There are a lot of Arabs who live in Israel. Israel is open to citizenship. But the folks who live close to Gaza Strip, and this doesn't, obviously I didn't interview all of them, but the ones that I did speak with, they think they're animals.
Okay. So when it comes to, go ahead, Rocky.
No, I was just going to say, and this is where, and Russo, when we were talking last night, this is where I was trying to kind of get in. It's just, depending on where you're from and your experiences and how you grow up, your ideology, it depends. There's so many factors on the different types of anger, right? So you'll have Hamas, you have Iran, you will have different radical factions, but then you also have, let's put any kind of organization aside. Now you also have a population of people super pissed off because back in the 40s, their land was taken from them. They were relocated to Gaza Strip, and they're not happy with that. And that's generational. So their kids that are born now they're embedded. They're taught that they're unhappy because they had their stuff taken away. If it happened to you, if it happened to me, if it happened to any listeners, they're going to be pissed off too, right? So you'll have a mixed breed. So I think a lot of times this is where I try to be careful, and I try to promote this to other people when we have these conversations, not talking to us here, is trying to understand the type of hate we're referring to. Because if we generalize it, man, that's a whole bag of mix of a bunch of ick. You know, if we just generalize it, because there's so many factions of hate. Same thing with the Israelis. Every day of their life, every single day of their life, they're hearing alarms, they're hearing missiles go off, they're seeing the missile deterrents, the Iron Dome. It's like your friend said, oh, it's just, we're okay, it's just another day.
Why did you go back to 1948?
Isn't that when they moved the Jews, or they claimed Israel, or
they were given, I
they were
think,
given
from the Brits.
Yeah,
They were
the Holocaust. But I mean, if you're going back in time, why would you stop there? Why don't you go back 3,000 years to King David, King Solomon, Jerusalem?
That's it.
Before the Crusades, and before, you know, they took over and kicked the Israelites out. And do you know where the name Palestine came from? It came from the Romans, because the Romans, to offend the Jewish enemies back then, were the Philistines. So they called that area Palestine. So if we're going to go back in history, which I don't really want to do, I think it's kind of a stupid moot point here, what happened in the past. I mean, America is no saint either, right? If we're giving land back, and, you know, why don't we just give Texas back to the Native Americans, right? Like,
right.
Either we don't go back in time and we face what's now and move forward, or, dude, if we go back in time, then it's Jewish land conversation's over.
You know, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because a lot of people don't even know anything beyond, you know, the mid-19th century when they go back and talk about the history. And because that's a lot of the arguments that I hear my friends over there is way more historically rooted, way more tribally rooted. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You ever been to Israel, Rocky?
I haven't, and I would love to.
I mean, can you imagine being in Jerusalem, and you're literally by the Jordanian River, and there's a sign up that says, I'm getting goosebumps, man, because I'm not a religious guy, but this is, you're at the river, and there's a sign that says, a place where nearby Jesus was baptized. Like, it gives you an understanding of how much history is in this place, all the way to biblical times. Like, what you read about in the Bible happened right there. And it's home to everybody. I mean, it's home to Christians, it's home to Muslims, it's home to Jews. But if we want to go back to 1940s after World War II, okay, let's do that. In 47, Israel was a very small piece when they moved in. They moved the Jews in who were displaced after the Holocaust. Arabs didn't like that, and they attacked them. They attacked Egypt, attacked Jordan, attacked Syria, attacked Lebanon, attacked Palestinians, attacked. They got their asses whooped by the brand new Israelis who have been there for 1 year. And Israel expanded, took a bunch of land. And then later on, to make peace with Egypt, they gave back the Sinai Peninsula. So, one, originally it was their land. Two, they beat the Arabs up and took the land, if you want to look at it that way. Then in the 70s, there was the Yom Kippur War, when they all got attacked again, and they whooped their asses again. So I don't know if you want to go back to history. I think we got to focus on what's happening now.
That's kind of what I want to do. So what would your family, and what do you say to those that say what's happening in Gaza is apartheid, or, which to me, this is what last week made me, I'm like, it's apartheid, my ass. That's apartheid, and that it's an open air prison. To those that you've been closer to than I have, you've been out there and you have family there. So what would they say to those statements?
Yeah, define apartheid.
It's a great question. I meant to actually have that looked up. Let's look at the definition of apartheid right now.
I believe apartheid, if I remember correctly, apartheid is where certain citizens have worse rights than other citizens.
Like South Africa.
An official policy of racial segregation formerly practiced in the Republic of South Africa involving political, legal, and economic discrimination against non-whites. So in this case, would be apartheid against Palestinians.
But how can that be when Israel? So here's my biggest beef here with this misconception. They say Israelis are, the woke term is colonization, right? They're colonizers. Well, they left the Gaza Strip. In the Gaza Strip, Palestinians had their own election back in 2007, and they elected Hamas as the leadership for them. They elected a terrorist group in their democratic elections to rule them. Israel left. Do you understand why there's a blockade? there's a blockade because after Israel left, the folks from Gaza, now I don't know if they're just Palestinians or if it was Hamas, they kept running into Israel and having suicide bombings in nightclubs and coffee shops and everywhere, to the point where Israel's like, screw this, we're going to blockade your stupid asses because you don't know how to behave. And now everybody's like, oh my God, it's an open prison. Well, let me ask you something. Why aren't there Arabic brothers on the other side in Egypt opening up their blockades? Because it's the same shit. Because they went in there and we're blowing up Egyptians too.
So that was a great answer. Answer I've been looking for a couple days. What would you say to those that are the unfortunate but innocent Palestinians, 2 million of them in Gaza, that right now are trapped essentially because of tens of thousands of bad people?
Dude, this breaks my heart. I'll tell you like this. As a Jew, as a human being, it breaks my heart to see kids, women get killed. But the innocent under the Hamas regime, you got to understand, they groom kids since they're 3, 4, 5 years old to kill Jews. They have cartoons. Like Ben Shapiro just showed a cartoon on the show. You can look it up. You can probably find them on YouTube. That they show, it's like a Mickey Mouse looking bumblebee. And it's telling a little kid, like, hey, you see this Israeli soldier? Throw rocks at him. Shoot him. Let's kill him. Israelis are evil. So
I don't know if a lot of people know that Hamas also pays the families of martyrs. So if somebody goes and suicides themselves, Hamas will pay the families, their children, their wives, or whatever it may be. They reward them for the radical act.
Iran does that, but yeah, Iran funds Hamas, and yes,
correct,
they do that. And so I said that just kind of to lay the groundwork, because no matter what I say here, they are still innocent kids who are being killed. Okay, so what's your question here? Like, Israel, here's the thing, and this is such a tough situation because Palestinians want to die for their religion or for their cause, and I don't even think it's a religious thing anymore. It's just they don't value life.
All Palestinians?
Okay, Hamas. I don't know about all Palestinians.
Right.
I don't, but what I do know is that when they were showing the Gaza Strip with terrorists driving back with hostages on their motorcycles and in trucks, they were cheering. There were a lot of kids, young men, women. They're hitting the hostages. They're cheering. Nobody's seeing that. When 9/11 got attacked, Palestinians were cheering. You understand? So I don't know the philosophy there. I don't know. I think what's happening now is that Hamas is really, really good at PR and Israel is not.
Ooh, that's a fact, brother. That is a damn fact.
And that's why do you think they told their people not to leave? Why would, by the way, if Israel is that much of an oppressor, who does this? Hey, we're going to blow up these buildings. Please take your kids and leave. Go south, get out. Does that sound like somebody who's committing genocide?
No, absolutely not. But they also know, and I think Israel is actually very good at PR because they do own the West. I mean, the Western media is in pro-Israel support right now, minus some of it slipping through the cracks where people are starting to be like, maybe these pro-Palestinian rallies have a point. I think for the most part, it's still very pro-Israel in the Western states. So when you're looking at the Israel saying, look, we're going to bomb the building, get out. I think right now they also, from a human standpoint, know that there is no place for them to go. Even if they don't listen to Hamas, there is no exit right now. Egypt's not letting them in. Nobody's letting them in, which now becomes a humanitarian crisis.
Okay, but why aren't we mad at Egypt?
I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree. But like you said, unfortunately, it's hard to distinguish between Hamas and Palestine. So what is the other alternative? Because like you were kind of getting into, like I think you were leaning on the side of this human shield philosophy that Hamas is notorious for. The more research I did on this, and again, finding truth in this whole situation, it's so much easier to just believe in my raw faith of the Bible and believe in Israel is the light and the way to go, and this is it. But when I look at it from a base perspective, Israel has been the ones that have coined this concept of a human shield based on Hamas, when they're saying anywhere close to a Hamas camp, soldier, building, etc., if something happens, they're using them as human shields. And from what I understand, Israel, in response to suicide bombers and jihad, has just blown the shit out of Gaza repeatedly over the last several years.
Yeah.
Constantly, not just yes. And I've got people sending me messages from today that is like hospitals being blown up. Like, and
That's
this
where
is
Hamas has their headquarters, brother.
But so the interesting thing is, from what I understand about Israel, so do they, but they've got the Iron Dome, so it's protected. Whereas Hamas, it's only so much space.
What do you mean, so do they?
So from what I understand, a lot of the military bases in Israel are very closely situated to apartment buildings, to hotels, to hospitals. It's all very, very close together. The thing is, they're protected by the Iron Dome, so the risk of explosions and bombs are very difficult.
But the targets are different on both sides. So you have Hamas, who don't give a shit who they hit, and then you have Israel, who's just literally just there for defense.
Dude,
Israel
Golden Meir said it best. She said, if Arabs put down their weapons, there will be no more war. If Israel puts down their weapons, there will be no more Israel. What does it mean from the what did they say? From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, technically, when it's broken down by people that are on the same side as us, typically that means that they have to wash out and ethnically cleanse all the Jews from the area.
Yeah.
It's sick. And that's an issue.
Dude, listen, I hate that innocent people, kids, women are being killed in Palestine. I hate it. I also hate that there's 150 innocent Jews, mothers, babies who got kidnapped by Hamas and are being held hostage. And so the whole world is screaming, turn on their lights and turn on their gas and water. So Israel said, well, if we're not turning anything on until they release the hostages, Hamas shows you right then and there that it's more important for them to kill or keep the hostages than it is for their people to survive.
And unfortunately, the people, and remember, this is not a full democracy. So this Hamas was voted in 2007. And from what I understand, Hamas has gotten some funding from Benjamin Netanyahu all the way up until 2019 from the Israeli people, which is very weird. And it was formed by Assad. So it was formed by Jews. So it's
because they were sending aid over there.
Isn't that funny? And how same thing with the Taliban, United States.
And what did they do? They took that money, they built cities underground, they used it to build weapons against Israel.
Well, absolutely. And then, but then that poses the question, we say, and I said this last week, that Palestine voted Hamas in. They did this to themselves. But I think Hamas has changed. Just like Osama bin Laden changed when we funded him. I feel like Hamas might have changed, and they can't get out underneath that lockstep, that thumb. So they're being controlled by Hamas, and their borders are being controlled by Israel. And for the innocent Palestinians, which now, yes, as you said, they're cheering Hamas, they're cheering what happened. Could there be a chance that they're cheering this because the system that they are in, the trap that they are in, has created, rightfully so in many ways, when their houses, their cousins, their babies, their parents are being blown up every couple weeks when there's a random indiscriminate bombing?
I don't believe that's true. I don't think you can show me a proof of evidence for that. That randomly Israel is dropping bombs on Gaza.
Based on what I have researched in the last few days, it does happen in Gaza. Specifically, what's the more violent area? Is it the West Bank? I believe.
West Bank is by Jerusalem.
So the closest to Jerusalem. I think whatever is the most violent of that area is typically in rubble. I was looking at video that was done well before this last week. and they just blow. I mean, that area
Well,
is a war zone.
Ilhan Omar posted a video of dead babies from 10 years ago and not even in Palestine. So I don't know what video you're
Right.
showing.
But then also, it's sounding like I stood by my belief that there was beheaded babies last week that they found, which turned out there's no evidence of it. Zero. I mean,
what, no evidence? You want them to show you babies' heads in pictures?
So they're no longer standing behind the report. Israel is no longer standing behind the report. It was a word of mouth from a reporter to a soldier, from a soldier to a reporter that had never been fully corroborated or seen.
But then when they show you a charred baby, that's okay.
It's usually
the charred baby turned out to be AI.
It didn't turn out. They said it's AI. I mean, so no babies were killed. And then they send out.
I'm not saying no babies are killed.
Hamas rocking babies and cradling babies. But the pictures of car seats with blood in them, pictures of little baby rooms with cribs and blood all over the floor. But they weren't beheaded?
No, I'm being very clear in saying that I do believe these atrocities happened. I do believe many of them happened, but using the use of propaganda, I don't believe is only done by Palestinians. I do believe there is an Israeli cause for it as well.
Well, you can believe what you want to believe, man. The thing is, what's the truth? The truth is going to be whatever's aligned with your belief, right? If both sides are showing propaganda. However, what we do know is that unprovoked, on one of the holiest days, they snuck in, they murdered innocent teenagers at a festival, they murdered innocent people in kibbutz. We know that for a fact. That cannot be
100%.
Right? I mean,
1,000,000,000%.
So whether they were nice enough not to behead him, although I did see a video of a guy getting beheaded, it wasn't a baby, it was a guy. Terrible, terrible video. They threw grenades into little shelters where there's like 30, 40 people hiding. They threw grenades in there, dude. This is the kind of savagery. Like, we in America want to we think that we can make sense of that. You can't, because the way they view Jews are worse than whites viewed slaves.
I'm going to say this, Eric. I'm sorry, man. We sit here and we look at it, and I'm just appalled when I sit here and I turn on my damn TV and I'm looking at these United States politicians that are literally just screaming in support of a radical terrorist organization. I do not understand it. I can't fathom this. The fact
a lot of them are, though.
Well, it's the fact that anyone does, even the fact that a politician, and Eric, you said it, the complexity of this is so extreme. For a politician, like what we do is very powerful. What national radio hosts do is very powerful because we have the power to manipulate the way people think, right? If that is what our intent is, we have the airways, we have the masses of people. I have no idea where I'm going with this, because I start sitting here thinking the fact that we justify one, but we don't justify the other. We sit here and we can turn a blind eye of this concert, watching this concert. This was Red Dawn stuff, right? This is Red Dawn. And when we sit here, and I said this last week, I don't think Nazism ever went away. I don't think Nazism was ever eradicated. I think it went underground. I think it went to South America a little bit. I think Nazism regrouped. I mean, what the hell? We sold all their scientists and their doctors. And now when you look at today, there's pictures. I have one. I'll send it to you, where you have these Palestinians are holding up pictures of the swastika. And so apparently it's okay for them to hold up the swastika. It's okay for them to be anti-Jew and scream to be raped in the middle of a New York street. But anytime we call out the atrocities of a Hamas, anybody gets attacked for that. And so it's so difficult to have these conversations at an intellectual level, because you have some of these people that are truly supporting radical terrorist organizations in our country. And it just blows my mind.
Dude, do you remember American Sniper, the way that movie started?
9/11?
Huh?
Was it 9/11?
No, he's sitting there and
girl with the kid, right?
Lady walks out with a little kid, and the kid's running, and the kid has, an IED that he's going to either blow up some soldiers or plant, and Chris had to take him out. Right? Like, I mean, if you think about America, right? Think about what we did to Japan. Pearl Harbor, we get attacked. We get into World War II. Japan's whooping that ass. what happened to our morals then? Like, we had to win the war. Did we care that we were going to wipe out millions and millions of people? Like innocent people in Japan?
Collateral damage became a non-issue.
Let me ask
Collateral
you guys
damage
this,
or
both
not?
you guys. Let me ask you guys this, and this is going to support what you're just talking about a little bit ago, Eric. If because there were times where you had coexistence, do you think? And you said it. Do you think that if everybody says, okay, you know what, get rid of all the gates, get rid of all the checkpoints, get rid of everything, let's just everybody kumbaya, group hugs every day, namaste. How long do you think that would last if you tried or attempted coexistence?
7 minutes.
No, I think, yeah, it may be 7 minutes, but you continue doing that for decades. It will not happen with Hamas as their leadership. Hamas has to be eradicated.
That's right.
The innocent Palestinian people would have to come in under Israeli rule. Like, this is the Israeli government. And by the way, they have Palestinians, Arabs, Muslims, Christians, Jews in their Knesset, in their government. They're not this racist, like, state. As a matter of fact, they were having their own issues for the last like month plus, where they have their left that's completely against Bibi Netanyahu, and they were having, he's trying to rewrite their version of the Constitution because he thinks it's not good. I don't know all the details. I know there was a lot of turmoil inside of Israel before this thing kicked off, but I think a two-state solution under Hamas rule cannot happen. I think if they elect a different Palestinian government who cares about their people, the world sends so much money there, so much supplies there, that they could have built beautiful things. If you guys ever go to Israel, and I've been to Israel and I've stood on the borders of North, you got to understand the miracle that it is. When in the 40s, when the Jews got it, it was a desert shithole. No different than Lebanon and Jordan and Palestine. Like, it was a shithole. What Jews created there is something miraculous. Do you understand that out of this young country that was established in 1948, 447, that's been attacked and attacked, constantly at war, the best medicine comes out of there, the best weapons come out of there. Like, what Israel does for the world is just amazing. And they can't live in peace. So I know they want peace. I don't know the whole situation, was the right thing here in Palestine? How do you save these lives? Maybe you can't. And you know what? Hamas wants to turn the world against Israel. Hamas wants them to bomb people. Hamas wants them to kill innocent Palestinians so that they can show it on the news. Look at this dead baby here that Israelis killed.
So are we falling for the trap, being the fact that what's happening would be deemed pretty cruel? So I'm going to read something. One of the reasons why one of the people couldn't make it, they can't speak on it, but they had somebody that potentially could, but they just had a hospital. And again, I have to believe individuals. This is a friend of a friend. So this isn't media. This isn't independent journalism. We just had a hospital get bombed. There are more than 500 people killed. Emotions are very high. I'll try again with my network in a few days, but we can't do my friend can't do the interview now. And this is, here's information on today's bombing. This is what was released essentially to this person. And again, with a friend in connection. While the churches in Jerusalem were fasting and praying for peace, reconciliation, and an end to the harrowing conflict. And again, this might be something where Jews may not know fully what the IDF is doing. And again, maybe this is all propaganda. I don't know, but this is what it says. End to praying for peace, reconciliation, and end to the harrowing conflict. A brutal attack took place on Al-Ahli Anglican Episcopal Hospital in Gaza during the Israeli airstrikes there, citing 2 Corinthians 4:8 through 9. We are afflicted in every way, but not crushed, perplexed, but not driven to despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. We reflect on the unwavering spirit in the face of adversity. In the strongest terms, the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem condemns The atrocious attack that has transpired in the heart of Gaza. War crimes are being conducted continuously on the Holy Land for 8 days now. Massacres, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. They're using their verbiage. And then there is the concept that there are many. I'm not going to say many. I've seen videos of several Jews, specifically Orthodox Jews, that are actually speaking out against the IDF and actually saying what's happening to the Palestinian people should not be being done because this is what was done to the Jews in the Holocaust.
I don't remember Jews attacking the Nazis or Germans.
Great point.
Dude, Israel was not at war with them. Israel was not bombing them last week. Like, everybody seems to forget why this happened. They have to get rid of Hamas. They have to get rid of Hamas. You know what comes to mind is that quote from The Dark Knight where with Harvey Dent, I just Googled it. It's badass. It's like, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Ooh.
And at the end of the day, this is not a fucking popularity contest. You can have the world like you and back off, and you know what's going to happen? They're going to sneak through the gate. They're going to dig more tunnels. They're going to fly over in their little lawnmowers and chairs and a fucking parachute and go murder innocent civilians. You got to get rid of Hamas.
What is your belief as a Marine? What is your belief the American involvement should be?
It's interesting because the only country that really cried during 9/11 was Israel in that region. They're the only ones who support the US. They're the only ones that weren't cheering. They're the only ones that were hurting. I firmly believe that if US was in shit, Israel would be the ones that come to our aid, nobody else. So as a Marine, I'd like to stay the hell out of everywhere possible. I like that we moved some aircraft carriers there in the Med to make sure that if Iran gets involved, we have a way to help Israel. I think Israel personally is strong enough to handle Gaza and Lebanon by themselves easily. I don't think they'll be stretched too far. Their Air Force is very strong and powerful. I don't think that the U.S. should be sending troops to the ground.
See, Eric, that's another part that we don't hear a lot about is the northern border of Israel, and because there's always stuff going on with the Lebanese part too. There's always infiltration going on up there.
Well, they got tanks up there now. They're ready. I mean, Hezbollah moved some people down. I know Israel had some airstrikes right there in Lebanon, just north of Israel. Look, you're fighting terror, man. Here's the thing, like the same people that want Israel to die, they want US to die. They don't want Americans alive. They hate America.
So, and I'm on the same, that was even when I was, and I think you've spelled out a lot of ways to properly explain this, because I reached out to some of my Jewish friends in the last couple of days as I delved in. I'm like, what do I say to this? What do I say to this video? What do I say to this commentary about the fact that there is two sides to this? I think you did a great job articulating it. And like you, though, I still don't believe I think they can take care of themselves. That's the key. They just want the permission. The question becomes, if they continue to do what they're doing in Gaza, and like you said, we didn't seem to care about collateral damage when we dropped the bomb on Japan, on Hiroshima. But in this instance, it's a different world. There's a million different media channels. There's million different opinions. There's a whole bunch of college students that have been brainwashed that America is an oppressor and that there is anti-Semitic views. So what good can come out of a continued assault? I know we're trying to get I can't even use.
You get rid of Hamas.
Well, we're trying to get prisoners of war out, or not. I'm saying prisoner of war, but people that have been kidnapped, hostages. That's the word I'm looking for.
The U.S. used to have a strong policy on we don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
And what does that mean? What does that really mean when you think about it? That means you're going to kill the hostages before we negotiate.
Right. But there's 2 million Palestinians that out of that, at least 1.5 million are completely innocent. They may hate us, but there's people that hate white people. Do we kill them? No, in the States. So it's like, this is something to me that will lead to forever war between those. I mean, it's already a forever war between those countries, but it will lead to anti-Semitic beliefs and hate in America if we are seen, if Israel is seen pretty much the parking lot mentality. If turn Gaza into a parking lot, I think has some long-term ramifications.
Yeah, you can worry about how the world sees you, or you can take care of the real danger. There are people they're the same people that view Israel as the oppressor talked about Russian collusion with Trump. They talked about Trump being racist. They talk about US being racist. They're pro BLM. They're anti-American. I personally don't give a fuck what they think. It sucks that innocent Palestinians will die, but they're going to die because of Hamas. Hamas is not allowing them to leave. Hamas is telling them to stay. Hamas is using them as PR for after their deaths. They're going to show, look at how many people were taken out of the rubble.
Eric, they keep saying the Palestinians keep talking about how the oppressor is Israel, but has any Palestinian ever came forward and talked about the oppression that Hamas is putting against the Palestinian people?
Yeah, what's her name? Gabrielle.
Yep, I interviewed her 6 months ago. Powerful story. Gabrielle, I'm trying to think of her name right now. Gabrielle, you know who it is. Russo.
Yeah.
So.
Name sounds familiar. Gabrielle.
She's on Fox News quite a bit.
She gets me fired up. Yeah, she's from Lebanon.
Anwar?
She's from Lebanon. Okay, I thought she was Palestinian.
Is her last name Anwar, or am I thinking of somebody else?
How can they be oppressors? Like, I don't understand this, man. I really don't. By the way, before Hamas took over, before Israel left Gaza and left it to PLO, Palestinians had a way better way of life.
Bridget Gabriel.
Bridget, that's it. Bridget. Yeah. I didn't know she was from Lebanon. The son of Hamas was just interviewed. The son of a Hamas leader was interviewed. He speaks out about that quite a bit. Actually, on that goofy guy on CNN that I thought was fired because of Vivek. What's his name? Don Lemon?
Yeah.
Did he get fired?
I thought he did. Maybe it wasn't CNN, but he just interviewed him. I don't know where he's interviewing.
Yeah, he's not on CNN anymore.
Of course, he interviewed. It's kind of funny how the CNN people always seem to be right at the right spots for the raids.
Well, shockingly, CNN is, from what I've seen, is kind of back in Israel.
I think all the media is, and that's so. Then
not the Young Turks.
Right.
Young Turks is not. All the mainstream media is backing, which are automatically, there's two ways of looking at that. To me, it's like, all right, at least we can agree on something. This is good. And then some people will say, well, if the narrative is all one direction, do you trust it? And we've become so preconditioned to believing things are a conspiracy that we have trouble now rooting it in truth, which is where I have to lie on something that I heard. I was listening to the Dallas Jewish Conservatives event. It was an hour and 45-minute long. I listened to what was going on over there from their perspective, somebody that came in. And ultimately, one thing it bothered me is, somebody said, if you have any questions about what to believe in this, you just have to rely on your faith. I'm not going to call myself a skeptic, but I need to believe more in faith, because right now this isn't necessarily just biblical. This is information, and my information is multi-directional. And that's why I'm having a conversation with you. So I'm having a conversation with Ian Wentz on Truth Will Set You Free. I think it's important to not just blindly rely on faith at this point. And I love the fact that before the show, Eric, you're like, maybe there's something I don't know. All I know is how you've answered all the questions is what I've been looking for in order to respond, because I say it's my cognitive dissonance is to always go pro-Israel, but I need to actually be able to reply more than just, you're wrong, trust me, this is the way that it is. I need secondhand knowledge. I need people that have gone. I need to have these conversations in order to have any credibility, because I believe this instance, it is incredibly nuanced. It is not a blind following situation. I do believe there are two people escalating against each other. I do believe one is in the right. I use the phrase lesser of two evils. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, because I do believe on an Israel stance, it is a much higher authority. But I think some of the things that they do to the people are not great. but you've explained to me why you have to. When you can't, the reason you have checkpoints, like you said, I'm summarizing what you said, the reason you have checkpoints is because, yeah, most of them aren't going to go suicide bomb the Israel. Problem is, you don't know who is, so you have to fortify your borders. You have to have these checkpoints. Unfortunately, I've heard stories that are a little bit graphic on, if you're not carrying papers, they've just killed people at the border. And these are, again, independent journalists. These are not pro whatever. So it's not perfect. I have to say it's not perfect. I still believe it's not perfect, but you've given me a very good explanation on the pro-Israel argument that's been articulated very well by somebody that knows a little bit more.
Yeah,
Rocky,
dude, Arabs run into Israel as any chance they get to kill Jews. They've stabbed young men. That happens way more than Israel killing Palestinians.
I don't know how people can live like that every day and not hold resentment to, like think about, being an Israeli and living in Israel, and constantly, every time you go to the market, you always have to worry about who wants to kill you today.
Yeah, that's going to happen here soon too, with the amount of people who got into the country. You already saw what happened in Brussels. I think just a random dude hopped off a motorcycle and shot up a couple of people. It's not Jews, dude. Show me Jews around the world that are committing terrorist acts. 9/11 wasn't Jews. Anywhere in the world, in Paris, the teacher that just got stabbed to death was not by a Jew. And trust me, Jews dude. If a couple of Jews, let's say 1,000, stormed Iran or stormed Palestine or whatever, and if this was done by Jews, do you know what the Arab world would have done in these cities?
100%.
They would have made BLM protests look like freaking child's play. 100%. It would have been murders all around. Do you understand that somebody drew a cartoon of Prophet Muhammad?
Charlie Hebdo in France.
And did they kill him?
Yeah, they shot him right in front of the press. The Muslims pulled right up and they shot the artist that drew a character of Muhammad. Just blew him away.
Hillary Clinton blamed Benghazi, the murders during Benghazi, on some post by an American.
Yeah.
Online. So you're dealing with, none of these were Jews. Olympics in the 70s, Munich. Not Jews. I'm telling you, Jews want peace.
So I have one last question. I know we've taken a little longer. I forgot to ask it. What is your belief on separating of Zionism and Judaism? Are they the same thing? Why are Zionists getting a bad rap?
I don't know what Zionist is. I don't know the definition of that.
You and me both. I've been working on that for a while. So Zionist essentially means those that believe.
I call them the black hats.
Yeah, black hats. The ones that firmly believe that Israel strictly belongs, and it doesn't have to be Jews. People that are working to make sure Israel is the motherland of the Jews.
If you read the Bible, that's what it says.
And I find it interesting. People like Bryson Gray, who is, I believe, anti-gay, anti-Semitic in some ways. But he believes the Bible too. I don't want to call him an anti-Semitic because I think that's a stretch. But I do believe he was leaning a little bit more on the side of like a Kanye belief system. I don't know. I don't want to speak of that, but somebody that should be very biblically based. If you are true to the word of the Bible and believe every word of it, you're the one that's going to want to lean much heavier on the Zionist side, because the Bible does talk about the Holy Land, obviously being to the Jews and Israel and all that. So I think it's interesting that I've not seen somebody like him and some others speak up. I've seen others that fall into the Sunni category that are questioning anything happening over there and thinking that it's ridiculous. But I think biblically should be on the side of this. You should be on the side of Zionism that is being deemed as almost like the F word at this point. I think it's confusing.
I think you just got to look at the facts to make, like you said, I don't know what to believe. I don't know the truth. The truth is that they have Arabs serving in the IDF. That's a fact. They have Palestinians who live in Israel peacefully, work in Israeli companies. There isn't a Muslim state where Jews are welcome to live freely.
Zionist it's just a nationalist movement emerged in the 19th century to espouse support for the establishment of a homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine.
I mean, listen, I'm a nationalist.
Yeah.
I like nationalism. I think you should be patriotic and proud and, whatever that culture is for you. I don't freaking know. I don't know what else comes with being a Zionist. If that means kill all the Arabs out of the land, I don't agree with that. Obviously, but I think that as an American, I'm a patriot. I'm a nationalist.
Yeah.
So
I dig it.
To
All
me,
right, man. I know you got to say it again.
To me, that nationalist just means put your country first.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's perfect. Do you have any final words? I know you got to go.
No, I appreciate this, man. Thanks for kind of giving me the mic here and allowing me to share my thoughts. And you guys are awesome.
I didn't realize how well versed you were in this. That was very good.
I'm very passionate about Israel, dude. I love Israel.
Yep, you could feel the passion. I was just sitting back this a couple times there. I got chills when I was listening to you talk, Eric, and I appreciate it. And I understand. We try to have these conversations, brother. But I get it. I've been down this rabbit hole so many damn times, and I understand from an outsider's perspective, not empathy, but sympathy on having to live that horrifying life every day and knowing who I am and what I would do if somebody just pushed my child, just pushed them. What I would do if I lived there and had to deal with that every day would be pretty incredible. So, brother, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Guys. And can I just say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Or if there are any Muslims, Palestinians that are listening, as a Jew, my heart goes out to the innocent people in Palestine. I hope that there is the least amount of bloodshed that can possibly be. And I also hope that you agree with me that Hamas has to be eradicated. Not Palestinians, not Palestine, Hamas and their regime. They're the true oppressors. They're the ones that are holding people back. They're the ones that are creating this.
Preach. Thanks, Eric. Take it easy, man.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
No problem. Later. All right, we've got go ahead and switch that. We've got about 8 minutes left in the show. Rocky, I obviously I did a lot of the questions because I know Eric. So what's your overall thought process at this point?
Well, so I'm just going to be completely open and honest. I've always not that I have avoided the conversation of Israel. It's the way I have conversations is not seem to be welcome on either side because I critique both sides. Right. So I'm not traveled enough to jump into this arena. I'm not referring to here. I want to be super specific. I'm just talking about society in general. I sit here and I'm watching some of the arguments on TV and I appreciate, Eric's passion is unbelievable. And I understand that. But in all fairness, brother, you have to really give yourself a lot of kudos on trying to step out of the arena of normality and your perception of reality to try to just understand the argument, right? Just so people fear what they don't understand. They hate what they can't conquer. Most people have this vile hatred towards something, but they really don't know why. Right. And the fact is that you're trying to understand. I think both sides should really appreciate that fact. And both sides are going to get angry because they're going to feel like you're defending the other, right? But in Israel, bro, I'm telling you, and there's a lot of profound points he made where, like, you tell me the last time the Israeli army was proactive in starting a war. Tell me the last time that they went and invaded another country. And I understand size and all that other stuff. And there's a lot of things that I can talk about Israel that I got some disdain for. But I'm talking from a governmental point. I'm talking from a governmental managing.
And that's when I use the phrase lesser of two evils, because I do think their government is garbage. I do. And I mean, look at what they did with the vaccine, like the way they forced that amongst their people. They've de-armed, they've taken away the arms of the people. They've done some very totalitarian things. It's ugly.
When we what was I just going to say? No, it's okay, brother. Yeah, I can't remember where I was going, bro. I can't.
Well, real quick before we wrap up, let's not forget to talk about MyPillow and the nether region.
By the way, they sent me a video today, and I didn't look at it yet. But I know that they just sent me a whole bunch of new images and assets to post and share, and I'll get that updated next week. But they're doing all their Christmas stuff. They're doing all their Halloween specials. And this dude does like 80-90% off. It's unbelievably crazy. Like the pillows is buy one, get one. So you're going to get two pillows. Somebody's already been ordering the Verve stuff, but so when you take your sleep spray that you ordered, appreciate it, by the way. Make sure you put your head on a My Pillow, but make sure you follow up with a nice healthy glass of Century H2.
A glass
Glass.
of hydration.
The pain meds kicked in about a half an hour ago.
I got you. So what's the website for what's the code for the My Pillow and the other thing there?
Yeah, so My Pillow is just going to be meatball, right? Meatball, ball.
Yeah.
You remember meat, ball? Okay,
Meatball.
and then of course, what was the other one? Oh, Verve is R&R.
R&R.
You
Yeah.
get 30% off, and not a sales pitch, but this is the time you want it. At least if you're into the vitamin thing, you want to make sure that you have your multivitamins. If you have the pills, if you take the gummies, whatever, however you take it. This is the season where everybody's going to start sneezing. I mean, look at Russo, look at Russo. Okay. Look at Russo over there, all sneezing and slightly over there. Yeah, he said he has a little pressure right about here. He said,
A little. I feel like I got hit with a hockey stick.
Okay. That ain't too bad. That ain't too bad. So, I know, let's see, we got 4 minutes. Tell me, because this was important to you, how did you absorb this? Because he was passionate in his defense.
Absolutely, and it gave me. So I think some of the biggest issues that I faced was the way that they patrol Gaza and the way that it is on such lockdown. Which it's very odd to me how it's ran with checkpoints when they're technically not in control. I think where they are in control though is the outskirts of it. The one question I still have is the fact that I have firsthand people telling me about the fact that over the last several years, there is indiscriminate bombings in Israel, but in Gaza. He made sense of why. If you screw with us on the border, we're going to screw with you. And that goes back to my philosophy. This is just a war between two peoples. That's not genocide. That's not whatever. In terms of the checkpoints, that's key. It's essentially saying, great, there's a lot of innocent Palestinians, but you can't tell. And he used the American Sniper reference. There's a little kid running at you, and this is based in a true story. And I know that this is how things are done, that are literally going to yell Allah Akbar, or, commit jihad as what seems like innocent people. And they've done that in Israel. So to ignore the fact that you need that because of the mentality of that people, which in their charter, it does list what they're trying to do to the Western world, to Jews, etc. It makes sense. It's unfortunate. It is an open air prison. I will now believe that phrase. I don't know if I believe the apartheid phrase. It is an open air prison, but that's because of their own doing, unfortunately.
And another thing too, brother, and I know Americans are guilty of this because we're always waiting every 4 years for a new election to be saved. Sooner or later, the oppressed need to stop pointing the finger at Israel and start looking at the people that are truly oppressing them. Because if Hamas wasn't doing such radical acts to Israel, they wouldn't be governed so strictly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's all we got right there, man. It's our Wednesday night. This is important. We got to have these conversations. Educate yourself.
Educate yourself. And make sure you're commenting. I know that, I make a bet Rocky was live the whole time watching this. Or maybe he introed it in the beginning. I don't know how he's going to air it, but either way, make sure you make comments. Make sure you say something at the end of the episode. Give us your opinions, your beliefs. Again, a little bit more serious than the usual.
Yeah. Oh, and if you want to vocalize your opinion, just go to.
I have no idea, Rocky.
What?
Is it InsaneWarriors.com? No, it's a different one.
Yes. Thank you, bro. You did it.
It is. It's InsaneWarriors.com. You can put your opinion on there. You can put your testimonial of how much this show changed your life and how you're going to name your baby Rocky.
And Russo Experience.
That's the girl.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool feature, man. We never really utilize that. It's kind of a cool feature. You just leave a message and then record it and tell us what you think about this subject because we love you. So with that being said, Daddy Russo, Sexy Russo, take us home.
Thank you guys for joining us again. Different as somebody that is half Jewish, Jewish by ethnic background, and of course Christian. This is a very difficult topic for me to go against a full-blown pro-Israel stance, and I think that a lot of our followers are incredibly pro-Israel. I've heard amazing people like Nick Vujicic, Jakub Boyan speak at events that are nearby. I'm watching this, and it is such a belief that we have to be ultra pro-Israel. At the same time, you can be pro-Israel and still question everything that we see because we've been trained to not trust anything. And I think that that's a fair statement right now on the bigger global play. And once this airs, if you want, I know the show that I'm about to be doing live will be up. That'll be with Ian Wendt and Casey will be on that episode. We're talking about, is there a bigger overall play why this is all happening? So make sure you check that out as well. Have a great night. God bless. Love you all. Vitamin C is going through me. I got to pee again.
Go pee, Russo.
I'm going to go pee.